The scent of lavender and eucalyptus had become as familiar to me as my own breathing. For 3 years, I'd worked at Serenity Springs Wellness Center, building a reputation as one of their most requested massage therapists. My hands had learned to read tension like Braille, finding knots and releasing them with practiced precision. I thought I knew every scenario, every professional boundary, every awkward situation that could arise in a massage room. I was wrong. It was a Thursday afternoon in late September when she walked into my life. The appointment book simply read Carter J. to 90-minute deep tissue, 2 p.m. I was running behind schedule, still sanitizing my room after a particularly challenging client who'd spent the entire session discussing her divorce in excruciating detail. I was spraying down the massage table when the front desk phone buzzed. "Maya, your 2 o'clock is here," Stephanie's voice crackled through the intercom, slightly apologetic. "I know you're running late." "She says she doesn't mind waiting." "Give me 5 minutes," I replied, rushing to change the face cradle cover and adjust the lighting. When I finally opened the door to the waiting area, I understood why Stephanie's tone had shifted. The woman sitting on our worn leather couch didn't look like our typical clientele of stressed suburban moms and weekend warriors with sports injuries. She was younger than I expected, maybe early 30s. Like me, with dark hair pulled into a loose bun and striking green eyes that looked up from her phone with an intensity that made me momentarily forget my own name. Jordan Carter? I managed, my professional smile firmly in place. "That's me." She stood, and I noticed she was tall, maybe 5'9", with an athletic build evident even through her casual blazer and jeans. "You must be Maya. Sorry I'm early. I finished my meeting faster than expected." "No problem at all. Follow me." I led her down the hallway, acutely aware of her presence behind me in a way that felt unusual. I gave myself a mental shake. I'd massaged hundreds of people. This was just another client. But as I held open the door to my treatment room, I caught the subtle scent of her perfume, something woody and expensive, and felt an unexpected flutter in my stomach. Professional. "Maya, stay professional." "So, Jordan," I began, closing the door and moving into my usual intake routine. "I see you're booked for 90 minutes of deep tissue. Is there anything specific you'd like me to focus on today? Any injuries or areas of concern?" She set her bag down on the chair in the corner, and when she turned back to me, there was something almost vulnerable in her expression. "Honestly, everything hurts. I'm a surgeon orthopedic, and I've been pulling crazy hours. My neck, my shoulders, my lower back, it's all a mess." "A surgeon," I repeated, understanding flooding through me. "That explains the posture issues. Long hours standing in one position, head tilted down. You got it." She smiled, and it transformed her whole face, softening the sharp edges of exhaustion I'd initially noticed. "My colleagues keep telling me I need to take better care of myself, but you know how it is. We're always better at taking care of others than ourselves." I knew that feeling more intimately than she could imagine. "Well, you're here now, and that's what matters. I'll step out while you undress. You can leave your underwear on if you're more comfortable, or go completely undrape, whatever makes you feel most relaxed. Get under the sheets face down, and I'll knock before I come back in." The massage started like any other. I worked methodically through her upper back and shoulders, finding exactly the kind of tension I'd expected. Her muscles were like stone beneath my hands, years of stress and poor ergonomics turned into physical knots. She barely flinched at pressure that would have made most clients wince. "You have an incredibly high pain tolerance," I observed, pressing my elbow into a particularly stubborn knot along her shoulder blade. "Occupational hazard," she murmured into the face cradle, her voice slightly muffled. "Though I have to admit, this hurts in a good way." "You really know what you're doing." 3 years of practice and a lot of continuing education," I replied, moving down to work on her mid-back. "Your body is telling quite a story." "How long have you been a surgeon?" 7 years out of residency. 10 years if you count training." She exhaled slowly as I worked along her spine. "God, that's exactly where it hurts." We fell into a comfortable silence punctuated only by the soft instrumental music, playing from the speakers and Jordan's occasional sighs of relief. This was the part of my job I loved most, the meditative quality of the work. The satisfaction of feeling tension release beneath my hands. The intimacy of helping someone without words. But then, about 45 minutes into the session, Something shifted. I'd just finished working on her legs and was preparing to ask her to turn over when Jordan spoke, her voice quiet but clear. Maya, would you mind going lower on my back? Like, really lower? The pain actually extends down into my glutes, and I know that's not usually included. But she trailed off, and I could hear the embarrassment in her voice. This wasn't an uncommon request, especially for clients with lower back issues, but it always required careful navigation. The gluteal muscles were intimately connected to lower back pain, but working on them meant entering a space that many therapists and clients found uncomfortable. That's completely fine, I assured her, my tone professional but warm. Gluteal work is definitely within scope for therapeutic massage, especially with your symptoms. I'll just undrape one side at a time and keep everything else covered. Let me know if the pressure is too much or if you feel uncomfortable at any point. What I couldn't say was that my heart rate had inexplicably increased, that my hands had developed the slightest tremor. That something about this particular client had been affecting me from the moment she'd looked up from that couch. And now I was going to have to maintain absolute professionalism while working on one of the most intimate areas of her body. I adjusted the draping carefully, exposing only her right gluteal area while keeping her left side and legs completely covered. My hands, warm with massage oil, made contact with her skin, and I felt her entire body tense. Try to relax, I said softly, beginning with broad, warming strokes. I know this area can feel vulnerable, but I promise you, this is completely clinical. Even as I said it, I wondered who I was trying to convince. The truth was, there was nothing clinical about what I was feeling. As I worked through the layers of muscle, finding trigger points that made Jordan gasp and release, I became hyper-aware of every detail, the curve of her hip, the way her breathing changed with each stroke, the small beauty mark on her lower back that I hadn't noticed until now. That's intense, Jordan breathed out, but in a good way. You're hitting spots I didn't even know were problems. The glutes are complex muscles, I explained, falling back on technical language as a shield. 3 distinct muscles layered on top of each other, and they're connected to everything: your lower back, your hips, even your legs. When they're tight, it creates a cascade of problems. I worked methodically, professionally, even as my mind raced with thoughts I couldn't quite suppress. Thoughts about the softness of her skin, about the trust it took to be this vulnerable with a stranger, about the fact that I'd never felt quite this way about a client before, and what that might mean. When I finally redraped her and moved to her left side, I noticed my hands were shaking slightly. I paused, taking a deep breath, reminding myself of every professional boundary I'd ever been taught. You okay back there? Jordan's voice held a note of concern. You got quiet. I'm fine, I lied. Just focusing. This side has even more tension than the right. It did, actually. As I worked, I could feel the asymmetry in her body, the way she favored one side. I fell into the rhythm of the work, letting my training take over. And gradually the strange emotional intensity began to fade into something more manageable. By the time I finished and asked her to turn over for the final portion of the massage, I almost convinced myself that I'd imagined the entire internal crisis, almost. Face work was always my favorite part. Something about working on someone's face and scalp felt deeply intimate in a way that was somehow safe. My fingers worked through Jordan's temples, along her jaw, through her hair, and I watched her face relax completely for the first time since she'd arrived. Her eyes opened briefly, meeting mine, and something passed between us. Recognition, maybe, or acknowledgement of something unspoken. Thank you, she whispered. I haven't felt this relaxed in years. You're welcome, I replied, my voice equally soft, my fingers still moving through her hair. When the session ended, I stepped out to let her dress, my heart pounding for reasons I couldn't fully name. I stood in the hallway, pressing my back against the cool wall, trying to collect myself. This was ridiculous. I was a professional. I'd worked on countless bodies, countless attractive people. Why was this different? But I knew why. It was the way she'd looked at me, the vulnerability she'd shown, the trust, and maybe, underneath it all, the recognition of something I'd been carefully ignoring about myself for years. When Jordan emerged from the treatment room, she looked transformed. The tension lines around her eyes had softened, her posture was looser, and she was smiling that smile again. That was incredible, she said, reaching for her bag. Seriously, best massage I've ever had. How do I book with you again? Check with Stephanie at the front desk, I managed, maintaining my professional demeanor even as my pulse raced. She'd get you scheduled. Jordan nodded, then hesitated at the door. Maya, I hope this isn't inappropriate, but do you ever work outside the spa? Like private clients? My breath caught. This was the moment. The choice. I could say no, maintain the boundary, keep her as just another client on my schedule. Or I could step into the unknown. I do, actually, I heard myself say. Though my private practice is pretty full right now. Of course. Jordan's expression flickered with something disappointment, maybe? Before settling back into politeness. Well, I'll definitely be booking here again, soon. She left and I stood there in the hallway, my professional mask finally cracking. I leaned against the wall, closing my eyes, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Nothing had happened. That was the truth. I'd given a client a massage. That was all, but it didn't feel like all. 2 weeks passed. I threw myself into work, seeing client after client, teaching a yoga class on weekends, anything to keep busy. I told myself I'd forgotten about Jordan Carter, that she'd been just another client in a long line of clients. Then Stephanie's voice came, through the intercom on a Wednesday afternoon. Maya, your 3 o'clock is here. Jordan Carter again, she requested you specifically. My stomach did a complicated flip. I'll be right out. This time, when I opened the door to the waiting room, Jordan was ready for me. She stood immediately, and I noticed she was dressed more casual, yoga pants and a soft gray sweater that made her eyes look impossibly green. Hi, she said. And there was a nervousness in her voice that matched what I was feeling. Hi, I replied. Same issues as last time? Actually. She hesitated, glancing at Stephanie, then back at me. Can we talk in your room? My heart began to race, but I nodded professionally and led her back down the hallway. Once inside my treatment room with the door closed, I turned to face her. My hands clasped together to stop them from shaking. So? What did you want to? I can't stop thinking about you, Jordan interrupted, the words tumbling out in a rush. And I know that's completely inappropriate. And you're going to think I'm a creep who gets crushes on her massage therapist. But I had to say something because I've been going crazy for 2 weeks. And Jordan. I held up a hand, stopping her mid-ramble. My mind was reeling, but underneath the shock was something else. Relief, maybe validation. I've been thinking about you too. The silence that followed was deafening. We stared at each other, the truth finally spoken into the space between us. This is complicated, I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. There are ethical guidelines. Professional boundaries. I could lose my license if I know. Jordan stepped closer, not touching, but close enough that I could feel the warmth of her body. But I had to at least tell you. And maybe we could figure something out? After you're not my therapist anymore? I thought about all the reasons to say no. About the careful professional life I'd built, the reputation I'd earned, the rules I'd never broken. But I also thought about the way Jordan looked at me, about the connection I'd felt, about the fact that I was 32 years old and had spent the last 3 years hiding behind professional boundaries instead of living. I need to think about this, I said finally. I understand. Jordan's face fell slightly, but she nodded. I shouldn't have put you in this position. I'm sorry. Just forget I said anything and no. The word came out more forcefully than I intended. I mean, don't apologize. And I don't want to forget. I just need time to think about what this means and how to do this right. If we do this at all. Something like hope flickered in Jordan's eyes. Okay, time, I can do time. She paused. Should I still get the massage I booked? Despite everything, I laughed. Honestly, I don't think that's a good idea right now. My head isn't in the right space. Fair enough. Jordan reached for her bag, then turned back to me at the door. For what it's worth, Maya, I think you're worth breaking a few rules for. Then she was gone. And I was left standing in my treatment room, the scent of lavender hanging in the air. My entire world tilted on its axis. I spent the next 3 days in a state of controlled chaos. During the day, I saw clients, taught classes, went through all the motions of my normal life. But at night, alone in my apartment with my cat Luna curled beside me, I let myself think about it. Really think about it. The truth was, I'd been hiding for a long time. Behind professionalism, behind the safety of my career, behind the comfortable lie that I was just too busy for relationships. But Jordan had seen through all of that in 2 90-minute sessions. And now I couldn't unsee what she'd shown me. I was lonely. I was scared. And I was tired of pretending I didn't want something more. On Saturday evening, I sat down at my laptop and did something I'd never done before. I composed a message to Jordan through the spa's client portal, technically allowed for follow-up care, but definitely stretching the boundaries of what was appropriate. Jordan, I've been thinking about what you said. If you're serious about this, I need to do things properly. I can't see you as a client anymore. That boundary is non-negotiable for me. But if you're okay with that, I'd like to meet with you outside of the spa. Just to talk. To see if this connection we both felt is real or just a momentary thing brought on by the vulnerability of the therapeutic setting. Let me know if you're interested. Maya, I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then immediately closed my laptop and paced my apartment for an hour, wondering if I just made the biggest mistake of my career. The response came at 11 p.m. that same night. Maya, I'm more than okay with that. I never want to put your career at risk or make you uncomfortable. How about coffee? There's a place called the Daily Grind downtown that I love. Tomorrow at 2 p.m.? If that doesn't work, I'm flexible. Very flexible. Actually, I'm just really excited you want to meet. Jordan, I read the message 3 times, smiling at the nervousness evident in her rambling response. It reminded me that she was just as uncertain about this as I was, just as scared, just as hopeful. Tomorrow at 2 works perfectly. See you there? Maya, the Daily Grind was one of those perfectly imperfect coffee shops, mismatched furniture, local art on the walls, and the kind of espresso that made you believe in love at first sip. I arrived 15 minutes early, too nervous to be fashionably late, and claimed a corner table with a good view of the door. Jordan arrived exactly at 2. Spotted me immediately, and the smile that broke across her face made every anxious moment worth it. She was wearing jeans and a forest green button-down that brought out her eyes. Her hair loose around her shoulders instead of pulled back. And she looked both more and less intimidating than she had at the spa. More. Because without the vulnerability of the massage table, she was fully herself, confident, successful, put together. Less because the nervousness in her eyes matched what I was feeling. And there was something endearing about seeing this accomplished surgeon worry about a coffee date. Hi, she said, sliding into the chair across from me. I already ordered. Hope that's okay. Cappuccino, right? I remembered from your breath last time. I blinked, surprised. You noticed that? I notice a lot of things about you. Jordan ducked her head, a hint of color rising in her cheeks. Sorry, was that too much? I'm not usually this awkward, I swear. Surgery I can do. First dates, apparently not. This is a first date? I asked, raising an eyebrow but smiling. I mean, isn't it? Jordan looked genuinely uncertain. If not, please tell me now before I embarrass myself further. No, it is, I assured her quickly. I haven't been on one in a while. How long is a while? I thought about it. 3 years? Maybe longer? Jordan's eyes widened. Seriously? But you must have people asking you out constantly. Asking out and actually saying yes are 2 different things. I accepted my cappuccino from the barista with a grateful nod. I've been focused on building my career, my practice. Relationships seemed complicated. And this isn't complicated? Jordan asked, but she was smiling. Oh, this is incredibly complicated, I admitted. But for some reason, I'm okay with that. We fell into conversation easily after that, the initial awkwardness melting away like morning fog. Jordan told me about her path to orthopedic surgery, about growing up in Seattle with parents who were both academics, about the pressure she'd felt to excel and how it had driven her but also isolated her. I came out in college, she said, stirring her coffee absently. My parents were fine with it, surprisingly progressive for their generation. But in med school and residency, I learned pretty quickly to keep that part of myself quiet. The surgical field isn't exactly known for its inclusivity. Is it still like that? I asked, troubled by the idea of her having to hide. It's getting better, slowly, but there's still this pressure to be perfect. To never show weakness, to be one of the boys even when you're not. She looked up at me. Your turn. Tell me something real about Maya. I considered what to share, what truths I was ready to speak. I grew up in a small town in Texas, very conservative, very religious. I knew I was different from a young age, but I didn't have the words for it. When I finally figured out I was attracted to women, I was 17, and I made the mistake of telling my best friend. Let me guess, it didn't go well. She told her parents, who told mine, and suddenly I was in conversion therapy with our church. The words came out flat, years of distance allowing me to speak them without the pain they once carried. I got out when I turned 8 and moved to California for massage therapy school, and I've been here ever since. Jordan reached across the table, her hand covering mine. The touch was warm, grounding. I'm sorry you went through that. It made me who I am, I said, turning my hand over so our palms touched. Including someone who's really careful about boundaries and professional ethics. Hence why I almost didn't contact you. But you did. Jordan's thumb traced a gentle circle on my palm. Why? Because sometimes you have to choose between safety and possibility, I said quietly. And I realized I'd been choosing safety for too long. We stayed at the coffee shop. For hours talking until the light outside shifted from afternoon gold to evening blue. We talked about books and movies and what we wanted from life. Jordan told me about a patient she'd saved the week before. A teenage athlete with a shattered femur and the satisfaction she'd felt putting the pieces back together. I told her about the yoga retreat I always dreamed of opening someday, a place where people could come to heal their bodies and minds together. That sounds incredible, Jordan said. When you do it, I want to be your first medical consultant. Deal? I replied, surprising myself with how easily I could imagine a future that included her. When we finally left the coffee shop, the evening air was cool and crisp, autumn settling into the city. We stood on the sidewalk, neither of us quite ready to say goodbye. So Jordan began, her hands in her pockets, a nervous gesture I was beginning to find endearing. Can I see you again? Soon? I'd like that, I said. Then, emboldened by coffee and conversation and the way she was looking at me, I added, actually, I'm teaching a yoga class tomorrow morning at 10. It's at the community center, not the spa. If you wanted to come, I'll be there, Jordan said immediately. Though I should warn you, I'm terrible at yoga. My hamstrings are so tight I can barely touch my knees, let alone my toes. I laughed. That's fine. Yoga isn't about flexibility, it's about awareness. I can work with that. We said goodbye with a hug that lasted just a moment longer than casual. Long enough for me to breathe in that woody perfume again, long enough to feel the solid warmth of her body against mine. When we pulled apart, I felt the loss of that contact immediately. Text me? Jordan asked, already backing away, reluctant to leave. I will, I promised. I watched her walk to her car, waited until she'd driven away, then walked to my own vehicle with a lightness in my chest I hadn't felt in years. Luna was going to hear all about this when I got home. True to her word, Jordan showed up to my yoga class the next morning. She arrived 5 minutes early, carrying a borrowed mat and wearing athletic clothes that proved just how red I'd been. About her build, lean and strong, the body of someone who spent hours on her feet performing delicate, demanding work. Ready to discover muscles you didn't know you had? I asked as she set up her mat in the back corner, with you as the teacher? Absolutely, she replied. And the look she gave me made my stomach flip. I taught hundreds of yoga classes over the years, but this one was different. I was hyper-aware of Jordan in the back corner, watching her struggle with poses that required flexibility, seeing the frustration cross her face when her body wouldn't cooperate. During a particularly challenging hip opener, I walked over to her, keeping my voice low so only she could hear. Don't force it. Your body is tight because you're protecting yourself. Let the protection go just for a moment. I placed my hands on her hips, gently guiding her into better alignment, and felt her body respond to my touch, relaxing incrementally. Our eyes met, and in that moment, with my hands on her body and a room full of other students around us, something crystallized. This wasn't just attraction. This was something deeper, something that scared me precisely because it felt so real. After class, while the other students filtered out, Jordan stayed behind, helping me stack blocks and fold blankets without being asked. "You're good at this," she said, handing me a stack of folded blankets. "Teaching, I mean. You have this way of making people feel safe enough to be vulnerable." "Is that what you felt?" I asked, tucking the blankets into the storage closet. "Safe?" "Yes, and terrified. And incredibly drawn to you." Jordan set down the block she'd been holding and turned to face me fully. "Maya, I know we're taking this slow, and I respect that. But I need you to know this isn't casual for me. I don't do casual. When I'm in, I'm all in." My heart hammered against my ribs. This was the moment for honesty, for truth, even if it was scary. I don't do casual either. And that's part of what scares me. Because I can already feel how not casual this is. Is that a bad thing? I don't know yet, I admitted. "Ask me again in a few weeks." Jordan smiled, understanding in her eyes. "Fair enough. So what now? Another coffee date? Dinner? A walk-in? The park? I'm open to anything as long as it includes seeing you again." "Dinner," I decided. "Friday night if you're free. There's this Thai place I love, nothing fancy, but the food is incredible." "Perfect. It's a date." Jordan gathered her mat and bag, then paused at the door. "Thank you for letting me come to your class. For letting me into your space." "Thank you for showing up," I replied. "For all of it. Friday couldn't come fast enough." I caught myself checking my phone constantly throughout the week, reading and rereading Jordan's texts, smiling at her terrible joke attempts and the photos she sent me of her catastrophically messy desk at the hospital. When Friday evening finally arrived, I spent an embarrassing amount of time getting ready, changing outfits 3 times before settling on dark jeans and a burgundy top that Luna kept trying to shed white fur on. I arrived at Thai Basil 10 minutes early, too nervous to be late, and found Jordan already waiting outside. "I was too anxious to be late," she admitted immediately, looking relieved that I was early too. "Same," I confessed, and we both laughed at ourselves. The restaurant was warm and crowded, filled with the aromatic smell of lemongrass and chili. We squeezed into a corner table, our knees bumping beneath the small surface, neither of us moving away from the contact. Over pad thai and masala curry, we talked about everything and nothing. Jordan told me about a difficult surgery she'd performed that week, her hands unconsciously miming the procedure as she described reconstructing a shattered ankle. I told her about a client who cried on my table after finally releasing trauma she'd been holding in her hips for years. "That's remarkable," Jordan said, her expression serious. "What you do, it's not just physical, is it? You're helping people heal emotionally too." "It's all connected," I explained. "The body keeps score of everything we experience. Sometimes people need permission to let go, and touch can provide that." "Is that what you did for me?" Jordan asked quietly. "Gave me permission to let go?" I thought about that first massage, about the moment when she'd asked me to go lower, about the vulnerability and trust required. Maybe you gave yourself permission and I just facilitated it. "I think you're underestimating your impact," Jordan said, her eyes intense on mine. "You've already changed something in me, Maya, opened something up." The air between us felt charged, full of possibility and unspoken desires. I reached across the table, threading my fingers through hers, marveling at how natural it felt. "Can I confess something?" I asked. "Anything." "I'm falling for you. Fast. And it terrifies me because I don't do this. I don't let people in quickly. But you've somehow gotten past all my carefully constructed walls, and I don't know what to do with that." Jordan's grip on my hand tightened. "You could try letting yourself feel it. Letting yourself want this. Want me." "I do want you," I whispered, the admission both liberating and frightening. "That's what scares me." We finished dinner in a daze of building tension, the conversation flowing, but underneath it, something humming like an electrical current. When the check came, we both reached for it, our hands colliding. "Let me," Jordan said. "We can split it," I protested. "Maya," Jordan's voice was gentle but firm. "Let me take you on a proper date, please." I relented, and we left the restaurant together, stepping into the cool October evening. The street was busy with Friday night crowds, but we found a quieter side street and walked aimlessly, neither wanting the evening to end. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," Jordan said suddenly. I considered, then decided to trust her with a truth I rarely spoke. When I left Texas, I told myself I'd never go back, never talk to my family again. And I haven't in 15 years. But sometimes I wonder if I gave up too easily, if there was a way to make them understand, if I should try again. Jordan was quiet for a moment, processing. Do you want to try again? I don't know. Part of me wants to believe people can change. But another part of me remembers what it felt like to have my own mother look at me like I was broken. I stopped walking, leaning against a brick wall. What about you? What's your deepest truth? Jordan stepped closer, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in her green eyes. I've never felt this way before. This quickly, this intensely. I've dated, I've had relationships, but it's different. And I'm choosing to trust that instead of running from it. Even though it's scary? Especially because it's scary. Jordan reached up, tucking the strand of hair behind my ear, her fingers lingering against my cheek. Maya, can I kiss you? My breath caught. We were standing on a quiet street corner in the city I called home for years, and this woman I'd known for less than a month was asking permission to kiss me, and every cell in my body was screaming yes. Yes, I breathed. Jordan leaned in slowly, giving me every opportunity to change my mind. But I didn't want to change my mind. I wanted this, wanted her, wanted to stop overthinking and just feel. When her lips met mine, soft and sure, the world narrowed to just this moment. The gentle pressure of her mouth, the warmth of her hand still on my cheek, the way my entire body lit up like a circuit completing. It was a perfect first kiss, tender and exploratory, a question and an answer all at once. We pulled apart slowly, reluctantly. Jordan rested her forehead against mine, both of us breathing a little harder. Wow, she murmured. Yeah, I agreed, unable to form more elaborate words. We stood there for a long moment holding each other, and I felt something shift inside me. The walls I'd built so carefully, the protection I'd wrapped around my heart, they weren't gone, but they were cracking, letting light in. Letting Jordan in. Come back to my place? Jordan asked softly. Just to talk, I promise. I'm not ready for the night to end yet. I should have said no. Should have taken things slower, maintained more boundaries. But I was tired of should. Tired of protecting myself from possibilities. Okay, I said. Let's go. Jordan's apartment was exactly what I expected modern but lived in, with medical journals stacked on the coffee table and a state-of-the-art espresso machine in the kitchen. The walls were decorated with tasteful art and photographs of mountain landscapes. I like to hike, she explained, seeing me looking at the photos. It's the only time my brain really shuts off. I'd love to go with you sometime, I said, surprising myself. I wasn't usually outdoorsy, but the idea of hiking with Jordan, of seeing the places she loved, appealed to me. Really? Because I know this great trail about an hour from here. We can make a day of it next weekend if you're free. I'm free, I said, then laughed at myself. I'm free a lot, actually. When you work for yourself, you can make your own schedule, but that also means I tend to work all the time to fill the emptiness. Jordan stepped closer, her expression serious. You're not alone anymore, Maya, if you don't want to be. The weight of that statement hung in the air. This was the real question beneath all the coffee dates and yoga classes and Thai dinners. Did I want to stop being alone? Did I trust her enough to take that risk? I don't want to be alone anymore, I admitted, the words both terrifying and liberating. But I'm going to be bad at this sometimes. I'm going to pull away when things get too intense, because that's what I know how to do. I'm going to overthink everything and probably sabotage good things because I'm scared. I know, Jordan said simply. And I'm going to work too much and cancel plans because of emergencies at the hospital. I'm going to be exhausted and terrible at communicating when I'm stressed. We're both going to mess this up sometimes. So why do it at all? I asked, playing devil's advocate even though I already knew my answer. Because messing up together is better than being perfect alone. Jordan reached for my hand, pulling me closer. Because when I'm with you, I feel like I can finally breathe. Because that massage 3 weeks ago woke something up in me that I didn't even know was sleeping. I let her pull me into her arms, resting my head against her shoulder, feeling the steady beat of her heart. This is crazy, I murmured. We barely know each other, so let's change that. Jordan's arms tightened around me. Stay tonight. We'll talk until dawn if that's what it takes. I want to know everything about you, your favorite color, your worst fear, what you eat for breakfast. What makes you laugh until you can't breathe? All of it, and we did. We stayed up until 3 in the morning, curled up on our couch with mugs of tea, talking about everything from childhood memories to philosophical questions about the nature of healing. I told her about Luna and my tiny apartment and my dream of someday having a garden. She told me about the first time she'd held a human heart in her hands during rotation and how it had felt sacred, heavy, life-changing. I think about that sometimes, Jordan said, her voice drowsy as exhaustion finally began to catch up with us. About how much trust people put in me. They let me cut them open, rearrange their bones, put them back together. It's the ultimate act of faith. That's what you gave me, I realized suddenly. When you asked me to go lower during that massage. When you told me how you felt. You've been trusting me with vulnerable parts of yourself from the beginning. And you've been trustworthy, Jordan said, her eyes starting to close. Even when it was hard. Even when it complicated things. I watched her fall asleep there on the couch, her hand still holding mine, and I felt something settle in my chest. Something like peace. Like rightness. Like maybe, just maybe, I'd found something worth the risk. The next few weeks unfolded like a dream I was afraid to wake from. Jordan and I fell into a pattern stolen moments between our hospital shifts and my client appointments. Text messages throughout the day, phone calls late at night when we couldn't see each other. We went on that hike she promised, and I discovered that I loved seeing her in her element, scrambling over rocks and pointing out landmarks with childlike enthusiasm. We kept things mostly private, neither of us ready to explain this new thing to our respective professional circles. But in our own spaces, we stopped holding back. She started keeping a toothbrush at my apartment. I memorized the code to her place. We learned each other's rhythms and quirks, how she liked her coffee obscenely strong, how I needed 20 minutes of silence in the morning before I could be human, how we both craved physical touch in different ways. One evening about 6 weeks after that first coffee date, I was in Jordan's kitchen making dinner while she caught up on surgical notes. My phone buzzed with a message from Stephanie at the spa. Hey Maya, weird question. Jordan Carter tried to book with you again through the online system. Should I approve it or? I smiled, imagining Jordan's thought process. She technically never officially terminated as a client, even though we'd been dating for weeks. The professional boundary had been implicit but never formally addressed. I'll handle it, I texted back, then called out to Jordan. Hey, did you try to book a massage with me? She appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking sheepish. Maybe? I was thinking about it and realized we never actually had that conversation. Like, can you ever massage me again? Because honestly, my back is killing me and you have magic hands, but I don't want to cross any lines. I considered it. The ethical guidelines were clear. I couldn't work on someone I was in a sexual or romantic relationship with. It was one of the first things they taught us in massage school. But there was also a loophole that some therapists used working on partners or spouses. Was allowed as long as it was for relaxation. Not medical treatment and as long as both parties consented. Technically, I probably shouldn't, I said slowly. But if you want a relaxation massage at home between partners, that's different. It's not billable, not clinical, just intimate. I like intimate, Jordan said, moving closer. But only if you're comfortable with it. I never want to put you in a position where you're compromising your ethics. You're not, I assured her, pulling her close. Actually, I've been wanting to work on you again. Just in a different context, yeah? Jordan's hand settled on my hips. What context is that? The context where I get to take care of you because I want to, not because it's my job. I kissed her softly. Where touching you isn't about professionalism. It's about intimacy and connection and knowing your body in a completely different way. I really like that context. Jordan murmured against my lips. Later that night after dinner, I set up an impromptu massage station in her living room. No professional table, no clinical draping. Just blankets on the floor and candlelight and the trust we built. This is different, Jordan observed as she lay down. Completely comfortable being undressed with me now in ways that went far beyond therapeutic. Very different. I agreed, warming oil between my hands. Tell me if anything feels wrong or if you need me to stop. But nothing felt wrong. My hands moved over her body with a combination of therapeutic knowledge and intimate familiarity. I knew her muscles now, but I also knew her the way she held stress in her shoulders. The way she sighed when I found exactly the right spot. The way her body trusted mine completely. "You're still magic," Jordan murmured, half asleep under my hands. "But this is better than that first time." "Why?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Because now I know I get to keep you." My hands stilled for a moment, emotion welling up unexpectedly. "You do get to keep me," I said softly. "If you want to." "I want to," Jordan said, turning to look up at me. "Maya, I'm in love with you." I know it's fast, I know it's intense, but it's true. I'm completely, terrifyingly in love with you. My breath caught. We'd been dancing around these words for weeks, feeling them but not saying them, both of us scared of moving too fast. But hearing them now, in this moment of vulnerability and trust, they felt exactly right. "I love you too," I said, tears pricking my eyes. "I think I've been in love with you since that first massage when you trusted me enough to ask for what you needed." Jordan sat up, pulling me into her arms, oil and massage forgotten. We held each other in the candlelight, and I felt the last of my walls crumble. This was real. This was right. This was worth every risk I'd taken. 3 months later, I stood in Jordan's apartment, our apartment now, since I moved in 2 weeks ago, packing for a trip I'd been planning in secret. Jordan didn't know yet, but tonight I was going to tell her. I was going back to Texas. The decision had been building for weeks. After that conversation we'd had on our first date, about whether people could change, I'd found myself thinking more and more about my family. About the 15-year silence. About whether there was any possibility of reconciliation. Jordan had been encouraging without pushing, telling me she'd support whatever I decided. But it was a message from my younger sister found through social media after a determined search. That had finally pushed me to act. "Maya, I don't know if you'll see this or if you even want to hear from us, but I needed to reach out. A lot has changed. Mom especially. She asks about you sometimes, wonders if you're okay. I'm not saying everything is perfect, but I think she wants to try. If you're willing." Emma, Jordan came home from the hospital to find me sitting on the couch, staring at my laptop, the plane tickets to Austin pulled up on the screen. "Hey, what's wrong?" she asked immediately, reading my face. "I'm going to Texas," I said. "Next weekend. To see my family. If they'll see me." Jordan sat down beside me, taking my hand. "Okay, tell me about it." I showed her Emma's message, explained my thinking, admitted my fears about reopening old wounds. She listened to all of it, her hand never leaving mine. "Do you want me to come with you?" she asked when I'd finished. "You do that?" "Maya, I love you. If you need to face your past, I want to be there. If you'll let me." I thought about showing up in my conservative hometown with my girlfriend, about being fully, completely myself in the place I'd spent years hiding. It was terrifying. It was also exactly what I needed. "Yes," I said. "Come with me. Let's do this together." The trip to Texas was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. My parents' house looked exactly the same, frozen in time, and when my mother opened the door, I saw the moment she recognized me, saw joy and regret and 15 years of grief pass across her face. "Maya," she breathed. "You came." The conversations that followed were difficult, painful, filled with tears and recriminations and careful attempts at understanding. My father remained distant, unable or unwilling to fully accept me, but my mother tried. Really tried. She apologized for the conversion therapy, admitted she'd been terrified and ignorant, said she'd spent years regretting it. "I lost you," she said, crying at her kitchen table while Jordan waited in the living room. And it was my own fault. I chose my fear over my daughter. "You can't undo the past," I said, my own tears flowing. "But maybe we can build something new, if we both try." It wasn't a perfect reconciliation. My father and I barely spoke. My mother's acceptance was genuine but fragile, still tinged with discomfort. But it was a beginning. A crack in the door I'd slammed shut 15 years ago. The best moment came when I introduced Jordan. My mother was awkward but polite, asking about her work, her family. And when Jordan took my hand casually, naturally, my mother didn't flinch. Didn't pull away. Just nodded and said, "I'm glad Maya has someone who makes her happy." It was enough. For now, it was enough. 6 months after that first massage, Jordan and I stood in an empty building downtown, looking at what could become my dream, a wellness center that combined massage therapy, yoga, meditation, and Jordan's orthopedic expertise in a truly integrated healing space. "We could do this," Jordan said, her arm around my waist. "I have savings. You have the expertise. We could build something incredible together." I leaned into her, looking at the space with new eyes. 6 months ago, I'd been safe and lonely, protecting myself from possibility. Now I was standing in an empty building with the woman I loved, planning a future I'd barely dared to imagine. "It's risky," I said, but I was smiling. "Everything worth doing is risky," Jordan replied. "You taught me that, did I? That first massage, when you agreed to work on my glutes, even though it made you uncomfortable. When you chose to message me after I told you how I felt. When you moved in with me after 3 months. When you took me to meet your family. Every single time, you chose possibility over safety. And it changed both our lives." She was right. That single choice in the massage room to be honest about what I was feeling, to take a risk on connection even though it complicated everything, had led me here. To love, to family, to possibility. "Let's do it," I said, turning in her arms. "Let's build something beautiful together." Jordan kissed me there in the empty building that would become our shared dream. And I marveled at how one moment, one choice, one client asking me to go lower had changed the entire trajectory of my life. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is say yes to possibility. Say yes to connection. Say yes to love, especially when it's complicated and risky and completely unexpected. That day in the massage room, especially when it's complicated and risky and completely unexpected. That day in the massage room, Jordan had asked me to choose. I'd chosen her. I'd chosen us. I'd chosen possibility over safety, connection over isolation, love over fear, and I would make that same choice every single day for the rest of my life. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Serenity and Structure Wellness Center, catching the dust motes dancing in the air. I stood in the main yoga studio, Luna weaving between my legs. Yes, I'd finally convinced Jordan that our wellness center needed a resident cat for emotional support, and looked at what we'd built. 2 years. It had been 2 years since Jordan and I stood in this empty building and dared to dream. Now the space was transformed. Massage rooms with heated tables and soft lighting. A fully equipped yoga studio, Jordan's orthopedic consultation office. A meditation room with singing bowls. And even a small cafe serving organic teas and healthy meals. "You're doing that thing again." Jordan's voice came from behind me. I turned to find her leaning against the doorframe, still in her scrubs from the early morning surgery she completed. Even exhausted, with her hair pulled back in a messy bun and dark circles under her eyes, she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "What thing?" I asked innocently. "That thing where you stand in the middle of the studio looking amazed that this is real." She walked over, slipping her arms around my waist. "It's real, Maya. We did this. You just saved someone's ACL. And you came straight here instead of going home to sleep," I observed, touching the shadows under her eyes with gentle fingers. "Had to see my wife on our anniversary," she said simply. My heart still did that stupid flutter thing whenever she called me that. "We got married 6 months ago in a small ceremony at the wellness center. Surrounded by friends, my mother and sister. My father still couldn't bring himself to attend. But we were working on it, and Jordan's huge, enthusiastically supportive family. My mother had cried through the entire ceremony. And afterward, she'd hugged me tight and whispered, 'I'm so proud of who you've become.' 2 years since I chose possibility over safety," I murmured, resting my head on Jordan's shoulder. "Best choice you ever made?" Jordan asked, a smile in her voice. "Second best," I corrected. "The best choice was saying yes when you proposed. I seem to remember you crying so hard you couldn't actually say yes." I had to interpret the nodding. I laughed, remembering. Jordan had proposed 3 months after we'd signed the lease on the building, on a hiking trail at sunset. With a ring she designed herself, a simple silver band with 2 intertwined waves, representing flow and strength, massage and surgery. Me and her. "Speaking of choices," Jordan said, pulling back slightly to look at me, I have something to tell you, and I need you to hear me out before you respond. My stomach tightened. Okay. The hospital offered me department head of orthopedic surgery. I blinked. Jordan, that's incredible. Why do you look worried? Because it would mean more hours, more administrative work, less time here at the center. Less time with you. She was watching my face carefully. And I told them I needed to talk to my wife before I decided anything. 2 years ago, Hal, 2 months into our relationship, I would have panicked. Would have seen this as Jordan choosing her career over us, as the beginning of the end. But 2 years of building a life together had taught me that love wasn't about never having conflicts or competing priorities. It was about navigating them together. Do you want it? I asked simply. Jordan considered. Part of me does. It's a huge honor, and I could implement real changes in patient care, diversity initiatives, training programs. But part of me loves what we've built here, the integrated approach, the consults with your clients, the way we're bridging Western and Eastern medicine. You can do both, I said. It'll be hard, and we'll need to be intentional about making time for each other, but Jordan, this is your dream too. I'm not going to let you give up an opportunity like this for me. You're sure? I'm sure. I kissed her softly. We'll figure it out. We always do. Relief flooded Jordan's face. Have I mentioned lately that I'm ridiculously in love with you? Not in at least 3 hours. Very neglectful. She was about to kiss me again when the front desk buzzer sounded. We both groaned. Our first client of the day, I said, checking my watch. Mrs. Patterson, here for her weekly massage and your consultation about her knee replacement recovery. I love how we share clients now, Jordan said, stealing one more quick kiss. Okay, I'm going to shower and change. Meet you in the consultation room in 20? I watched her go, then headed to the front desk to greet Mrs. Patterson, a 72-year-old retired teacher who'd become one of our favorite clients. She'd come to us 6 months ago, nervous about knee replacement surgery. And we guided her through the entire process pre-surgical massage to prepare her body, Jordan's careful surgical work, and now post-surgical massage and physical therapy to aid recovery. Maya, dear, Mrs. Patterson exclaimed, hugging me. I have the most wonderful news. I went on a hike yesterday, a real hike, 3 miles, and my knee didn't hurt at all. That's incredible, I said, genuinely delighted. Jordan is going to be so proud. You two are miracle workers, Mrs. Patterson said, settling into the waiting area. My daughter was asking about your center. She's been having terrible back pain, and her doctor just wants to prescribe pills. I told her she needs to come see you both. Send her our way, I said. We'd love to help. This is what we dreamed of, this integration of care, this holistic approach. This proof that combining different healing modalities could create better outcomes than any single approach alone. Jordan brought her surgical precision and medical knowledge. I brought my understanding of soft tissue, energy, and the mind-body connection. Together, we were helping people in ways neither of us could alone. The day unfolded in its usual beautiful chaos. I saw 6 clients for massage, taught 2 yoga classes, and consulted with Jordan on 3 patients she was seeing for orthopedic issues. We grabbed lunch together in our tiny office, Jordan's head on my shoulder as we shared a salad, and she complained about hospital politics. Department heads spend half their time in meetings, she grumbled. I might die of boredom. You'll revolutionize their meetings with your surgeon efficiency, I assured her. You'll probably cut meeting times in half within a month. You have an unreasonable amount of faith in me. I have a perfectly reasonable amount of faith in you. You're the woman who convinced a conservative Texas family to attend their daughter's gay wedding. Hospital administrators don't stand a chance. Jordan laughed, then grew serious. Thank you, Maya, for supporting this. For not making me choose between my career and our life. You never made me choose, I pointed out. When I wanted to open this center, when I wanted to reconnect with my family, when I wanted to adopt Luna despite your mild cat allergy, you supported all of it. I'm not allergic anymore, Jordan protested. I've built up immunity. You sneeze every time she sits on your lap. That's unrelated. We were still laughing when my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Call me when you have a minute. Nothing urgent, just want to hear your voice. 2 years ago, I never would have imagined receiving texts like that. The relationship with my mother was still complicated, Still required work and patience from both of us, but it was real. She came to visit once every few months, stayed in a hotel because staying with us still felt too intimate, but she was trying. She used Jordan's correct pronouns now without stumbling. She'd even started going to PFL-AG meetings. My father remained distant, communicating mostly through awkward holiday cards, but Emma had become one of my closest friends. She visited often, brought her fiancé to meet us, asked Jordan for advice about her own career in nursing. I had a sister again. I had some version of a family again. You okay? Jordan asked, seeing my expression. Yeah, I said, showing her the text. Just thinking about how much has changed. Good changes? The best changes? That evening, after our last clients had left and we'd locked up the center, Jordan and I walked to our favorite restaurant, the same Thai place where we'd had our first real date. We'd become regulars here, had our usual table, knew the staff by name. Over pad thai and massaman curry, Jordan raised her water glass. To 2 years of choosing possibility. I clinked my glass against hers. To 2 years of choosing each other. To building something beautiful, Jordan added. To terrible puns and worse jokes, I contributed. Making her laugh. To Luna's continued. Reign of terror over our apartment. To your mother's increasingly. Confident use of they-them pronouns for our. Non-binary staff member. To your father eventually coming around. Even if it takes another 10 years. To us, I said finally. Through surgeries and setbacks and success. Through growth and change and choosing each other every single day. To us, Jordan echoed, her eyes soft. We ate slowly. Talking about everything and nothing. Jordan's decision to accept the department head position. My idea to add sound healing to our center's offerings. The vacation we were planning to the Pacific Northwest. Whether we should finally start seriously discussing having kids. I think I'm ready, Jordan said suddenly. To start that conversation. About kids, my heart skipped. Yeah? Yeah, I mean, not tomorrow. But soon. I want to build a family with you, Maya, however that looks. Adoption, IVF, fostering. I want little humans who have your empathy and your healing touch. And your determination and your terrible sense of humor. I added, my sense of humor is excellent. You made a joke about a funny bone during a consultation yesterday. The patient didn't laugh. The patient has no appreciation for medical humor, Jordan said with dignity, then her expression softened. But seriously, I'm ready when you are. I reached across the table, taking both her hands in mine. 2 years ago, I'd been alone in a treatment room, feeling an unexpected connection to a client, terrified of what that might mean. Now I was sitting across from my wife, talking about building a family, living a life I barely dared to imagine. I'm ready too, I said. Let's do it. Let's add one more beautiful, terrifying, wonderful thing to our lives. Jordan's smile could have lit up the entire restaurant. You know what the best part is? What? Whatever challenges come, sleepless nights, toddler tantrums, teenager drama, we'll face them together. Just like we've faced everything else. Together, I agreed. We walked home hand in hand through the city streets. Past the building that housed our wellness center, toward the apartment we'd filled with plants and books and terrible furniture we'd assembled ourselves. Luna would be waiting for us, probably having knocked something off a shelf just for the chaos of it. There would be bills to pay and difficult conversations to have and challenges neither of us could predict, but there would also be morning coffee and inside jokes, and the simple comfort of falling asleep next to someone who knew all your scars and loved you anyway. There would be the satisfaction of work that mattered, healing that helped, a life built on purpose and passion. That massage room encounter 2 years ago had been a crossroads. Jordan had asked me to go lower, and in doing so had asked me to make a choice. Safety or possibility. Isolation or connection. Fear or love. I'd chosen love. Every day since I'd chosen love, and every day for the rest of my life, I'd keep choosing it because sometimes the scariest choices lead to the most beautiful destinations. Sometimes breaking the rules means finding your truth. Sometimes the client who asks you to go lower is really asking you to go deeper into vulnerability, into trust, into the terrifying and wonderful experience of being fully, completely seen. Jordan squeezed my hand as we climbed the stairs to our apartment. What are you thinking about? How a single moment can change everything, I said. How brave you were to tell me how you felt, even though it was risky. How brave I was to let myself feel it back. We're pretty amazing, aren't we? Jordan said, only half joking. We really are, I agreed. She unlocked our door and Luna immediately meowed indignantly at our late arrival. We fed her, changed into comfortable clothes, and curled up on the couch together, Jordan's head on my lap as I ran my fingers through her hair. Happy anniversary, she murmured. Already half asleep. Happy anniversary, I replied. Looking around at the life we built, messy and imperfect and absolutely perfect. 2 years since I'd chosen possibility over safety. The best choice I'd ever made, and it was only the beginning.